This is the Para Cave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, and co-sponsors Bo Cook from Loan Market, Scott from Brightside Detailing and Ceramics, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, the official clothing partner of the Para Cave Podcast, and the official media partner of the Para Cave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Para Cave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Para Cave.
Yes, welcome back here to the Para Cave Podcast. In this episode, this is the replay chat of my talk with the Duckman on Pulse FM 89.9 FM, and it is the Round 11 review. So every Sunday night, just after 7 p.m, I chat with the Duckman on Pulse FM on his weekend sports wrap show. So check that one out, 89.9 FM on a Sunday night and also on a Friday night as well after 7 o'clock, just after 7 o'clock. And in this episode, we review Round 11 and have a little bit of a chat about rugby league issues as well. But we cover off on such games as the Storm vs Broncos, the Panthers gave it to the Roosters, the Tigers lost to the Rabbitohs, and my Eels went down to the Raiders, as well as the other games as well. So have a listen to this one. Tell me what you think. I hope you're really enjoying this content, and it's over to the Duckman.
All right, welcome back to the Weekend Sports Wrap. You're here with Duckman, and now we have a special guest on, Troy Warner from the Para Cave Podcast. Troy, how you going?
I'm going fantastic, Duckman, and before we go any further, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there that are listening. I hope you have had a great day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, happy Mother's Day to your mum too and your wife. So is she long-suffering today, or is she happy? Like, did you treat her anything special? Didn't give her a Parramatta Eels jersey or anything like that, did you?
No. She got coffee and breakfast in bed and went out for a little walk across the Nepean River Bridge and, just out and about, and then some time at home. So, it was a good little day, and I think Ella treated her really well and gave her some nice presents and the like. So, I think she enjoyed Mother's Day and gave my mum a call as well, and we'll probably catch up tomorrow.
Yeah, that's good. That's the best way to do it. Sometimes I chat to my mum too, and my stepmother and my mother-in-law. So got to wish them all. They're the ones that are behind the scenes doing all the stuff while I'm out here being an idiot doing all these other things. So my wife, I think she gets a bit tired of stuff I do sometimes. So I'm always doing some sort of radio thing or football thing or something like that. But they're there. They're always in the background, always in your corner. So
that's it.
Don't ever forget that. So it's all good. All right, so this weekend in footy, we're going to go back to Thursday night now when the Storm took on the Broncos. The Storm got 24 points to 16. You taking anything else out of that game other than like Adam Reynolds got injured there? I think Storm played pretty good, really. So, but I think they are a fair way off being able to win the comp without Ryan Pappenhausen.
Yeah, look, very interesting game. I think they've got the Dolphins this week, so that should be an interesting game up at Suncorp Stadium. But yeah, they're a little bit inconsistent, the Storm, this year. They've had some wins and then they've had some losses. But they still sit in fifth spot on the ladder at the moment. So it was a good win for them down at home. They've got the wood over the Broncos down at Melbourne, and they continue on their winning ways. For the Broncos, I probably wouldn't take a lot out of that game, even though they lost, only because they're still sitting pretty well up there in, I think, second position now, with the South Sydney Rabbitohs taking that first spot off them. But they'll rebuild and they'll want to put in a good performance against the the I think they play the Panthers on Thursday night up there at Suncorp Stadium as well. But the one thing I did get out of that game was the Pat Carrigan hip drop tackle. He didn't have to face a charge. He got 10 minutes in the sin bin for it. So we all still are guessing what a hip drop tackle is.
Yeah, well, surely it's not a hip drop tackle. So I've seen some that look like hip drop tackles where they're talking about you tackle on the player, then you pretty much use your body to like boulder crash into their legs and take their legs out. I think that's what they're trying to talk about. But Pat Carrigan's one effectively was tackling the guy, and then he just skirted down his legs, just skated, pretty much dropped down and was tackling around his ankles. So isn't that what would show people how to tackle in the first place? That's copy the tackle out of the textbook.
Yeah, it's all very confusing. I mean, the players and the coaches say that they don't coach it in training, and these sort of tackles have probably been around for many years, probably 100+ years in the game of rugby league. But for some reason, this season they're really cracking down on it and they're spotlighting it, and we're seeing tackles that are being made. And like the example with Pat Carrigan, he got 10 minutes in the sin bin, which cost his team Brisbane 10 minutes. They were down a player, and then he got no charge to face the next day. So it's very frustrating. The Broncos, they never had a chance. When you have 3 players in the sin bin for 10 minutes, it makes it very hard to compete with a team that's got 13 players. So, but yeah, that hip drop tackle is certainly a controversial issue in the game at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got another question for you about the hip drop tackle and that sort of stuff. So all the penalties and things they come up with at the moment in the NRL, they had the crusher tackle, they go with this for a bit, had the crusher tackle, they had the chicken wing and all that sort of stuff. They're all part of KFC's menu. So why don't they come up with like a zinger or something like that, or whatever, some sort of 21-piece family feed, or a giant feast is when you get a person around the head and back slam them or something like that. So
well, there is
surely
a lot
going to work their way through.
Yeah, well, I've noticed during the coverage of all the games that there is actually a lot of teams sponsored by KFC as well. So, and I think the NRL is maybe sponsored by KFC as well. So, KFC is certainly creeping its way into the game. I think the Panthers, the Dragons, I think Manly as well, I think have got KFC sponsorship. So, it's very interesting, that one.
Yeah, I know. So I can't wait. Sooner or later they'll come up with the wicked wings, whatever that is. So who knows? They've got the chicken wing. The wicked wings will be something different. You put your knee in the back and make them back like a chicken or something. Who knows? So we'll keep on rolling on. The Bulldogs, they hosted the Warriors on Friday night as well there, and the Warriors got 24 points to 12. So the Warriors look good. They lost the Panthers last week, but they went through the motions, and I think the Bulldogs come up against a good team. They kind of never really got to get in the game once the Warriors got in control.
Yeah, look, it's a different Warriors-looking side this year. They're playing more consistent football than previous years, and they see themselves in the top 8 at the moment, so that's good for them. Sean Johnson is probably turning the clock back a little bit and playing some really good footy. He sort of controlled that game on Friday night against the Bulldogs, and the Warriors, they never looked like they were going to lose it. It was 18-0 at half-time. The Bulldogs scored a couple of tries in the second half. A little bit disappointing from their standards. They've had a few losses over the last couple of weeks. So they do have a few players out. Obviously, Josh Addo-Carr and Viliami Kikau's out as well. So they've got a few injuries there as well. So missing a few players. So they would have loved to have seen them out on the field, but they'll be looking to try and bounce back next week.
Yeah, funnily enough, they were talking about in the NRL yesterday who people think the actual best Penrith assistant coach was. So people saying, everyone says it's Ciraldo. Well, results are saying that it's Andrew Webster. He had less to work with, had less reputation, and now he's going and exceeding what people expected that he would do. He is actually doing a very good job with the Warriors. He's made them quite a resound side. So I think they can make the top 8. And I think they'll do pretty well when they're in it. They might not get up to grand final or anything, but he's really turned the team around at the moment and done a good job with, as opposed to Cameron Ciraldo. Signed a lot of big name signings, and he's going to be there long term with the Bulldogs. He's a long term build, and he'll get results. And in the short term, surely Andrew Webster has and is doing a better job with what he's got.
Yeah, look, at the start of the season, the Bulldogs, they were really competitive, and you could see that probably Cameron Ciraldo took that from Penrith. But throughout this season, round 11 rounds, you have seen, as you said, Andrew Webster has taken what he's learnt at Penrith as well to the Warriors, and it seems to be working for them. And at the moment, the Bulldogs are just suffering a little bit. But, yeah, no, look, it's a credit to the Panthers in developing players, but also coaches as well. Andrew Webster, I think, as well, also had a stint at the Tigers as a caretaker coach at one stage. But
yeah, and he played for the Tigers too. Trying to think, did he play? So he definitely played for the Tigers. I think he was a 5'8", and I think he played for maybe the Roosters as well. So I can't remember off the top of my head about that, but I do remember late 90s to early 2000s, he was kicking around. He did play first grade games. I don't think he played a lot, but more of a reserve grade player, sort of fringy guy. So not a superstar lighting the world on fire, but definitely a decent caliber player.
Yeah, look, I mean, it takes, nobody, not just anybody can make rugby league and make rugby league teams. It's very hard, obviously, the toughest sport in the world. But, yeah, look, he's played the game, as has Cameron Ciraldo as well. So it's, as I said, it's a credit to the Panthers coaching staff that has got them there, and they've got their head coaching jobs there, and they're doing well at the moment.
Yeah. Well, the good thing that how Andrew Webster story tells you in particular, and Cameron Ciraldo, is that it gives the opportunity to other younger coaches who are developing now, like Jason Riles and Willie Peters, who's been thrown up at the moment with this St George Illawarra thing. It just gives them an opportunity now. They're going to get looked at because other guys are doing the job. So is Jason Demetrio. So he just had to work as an assistant and learn his craft and all that sort of stuff as well. Did it under Wayne Bennett and all that. And now he's doing a good job with South, got him on top of the table. So I wouldn't say he was a big name coach when he got his appointment at all, not even slightly.
Yeah, well, Andrew Demetrio, he did also have a lot of assistant coaching jobs at the Broncos and the Cowboys as well, and at South Sydney under Wayne Bennett, and before he took over the Rabbitohs. So, and he was a player as well, played some mostly over in the English Super League. So you generally do see that, I think anyway, that a lot of ex-players, the smart players, tend to try and become coaches and coach in rugby league. It's a very hard job to get into, obviously, because there's not a lot of positions available, but players these days seem to want to try and stay in the game somehow and stay at the teams that they were playing for or have played for, and offer something back to the game and the younger blokes by coaching. And you do see a lot of ex-players as coaches and assistant coaches as well. They've got the smarts, they've been there, played the game, and you generally sort of find too that it's the players that obviously you have to be good to make first grade and play first grade, but they're not generally superstar players of the game, but they're really smart players of the game, and they turn that into coaching. I mean, you've got your Tim Sheens, your Trent Robinson, as you said, Andrew Webster, Cameron Ciraldo. They weren't big name players, but they certainly have turned it on in the coaching world. And Craig Bellamy as well, another example. He was a player down at the Canberra Raiders and now one of the best coaches in rugby league.
Yeah, 100%. So he was very unknown, really, in Canberra. He was there for a long time, like 10 years or something like that. So, but he was never going to be a state of origin player, I don't think, but he's just a grafter. One of these guys will go and get the job done, and those guys, they're the ones that tend to step up and get to the next level of coach and do a good job. In the next game on Friday night, so I'm not real happy with this score, to be honest with you. Penrith won 48-8 against the Roosters, but to be honest, I thought Penrith was a little bit flat, so and probably could have put 70 on the Roosters. So some of the Penrith fans go, greatest win ever. Yeah, I watched the start of the second half when I got home from the radio, and I just thought Penrith, they looked a bit flat. Just went like, okay, you're just going through the motions here. And I think the Roosters weren't good. Penrith were pretty good, but Roosters helped magnify the score there 100% because they didn't play very well at all.
I think the disappointing part for the Panthers was that they let that late minute or the 64th minute try to Corey Allen from the Roosters in to make it 48-4. So I think that's what they'd be disappointed about. They were holding on for so long, and to let a late try in, they'd be disappointed. But still, it was a magnificent performance from the Panthers. They really turned it on in front of their home fans. Early on in the year, the Roosters were one of the competition favourites, but we've seen over the last few weeks they've struggled a little bit, and there's been a little bit of media talk about them as well. And in this game, they were pretty flat against the Cowboys up at Magic Round, and the Cowboys got them there. And this week they've travelled down to Penrith out to Penrith, and the Panthers have really turned it on. I think the Panthers really played hard up the middle, and they just wore the big blokes out of the Roosters, and then they were finding the gaps, and they were really on fire. I thought Tyrone Peachey, Scott Sorensen scored doubles. Dylan Edwards, he got on the scoreboard as well. And Jerome Luai, he was probably auditioning again for a New South Wales Blues spot as well. A lot of talk about him and Nico Hines, who would get that number 6 position for New South Wales. So probably after Friday night's performance, you would probably think maybe that Jerome has increased his chances of getting that number 6 spot again. So it was a pretty good performance from him. One sort of highlight out of that game was Isaiah Yo's crossfield kick to Brian Toto.
Set up a try.
Try assist. He's got his kicking licence, so that was a bit of a highlight. And then you saw from the cameras after Toto scored that the look on Isaiah's face was like, oh wow, that came off. So yeah, happy with that.
Yeah, so he would be happy with that. So he did say when I was talking to him about it after the game, I heard him say, well, Penrith's plan was to work the Roosters over on the middle, burn them out, and then work over their outside edges, and it did. It worked.
Yeah.
I just thought Penrith could have they had more in them, I think, and they did play pretty good. Jerome Luai definitely had the game that he needed to have. He's going to be in state of origin form, so it showed he's still got the spark. So it hasn't gone away, but that will probably reinvigorate him and reignite his season. I still think that Nico Hines will get picked, but I think after Nico's game last weekend, well, that might sit him back after Jerome Luai had a good one, might sit on the bench, which is probably not a bad option either. What did come out of that game I was surprised about is James Tedesco. Now, he's never been questioned about where he should be in or out of the New South Wales side until after that game, right? And now they're talking about is James Tedesco still the man to go for New South Wales as a fullback? They haven't questioned him or put anyone up against him at the moment. Now they're wondering if he's the guy that should be a fullback or not.
Yeah, I have seen and heard that talk as well, but I think with James Tedesco being the New South Wales captain, I think he's going to get that spot at fullback. But the question has been asked, especially over the last couple of weeks, if James Tedesco wasn't captain of the New South Wales Blues, would he have that spot? And a lot of people are saying that it would probably they would pick Dylan Edwards at fullback. So it's very interesting that a lot of people have said that. Another concern for the Roosters as well, not only with Tedesco's form, but out of that game, Jared Warrior-Hargreaves did a pec injury. I don't know if it's a full-blown pec injury, so I'm not too sure how long he'll be out of the game for, but also Joey Manu as well rolled his ankle as well, so he'll be out for a couple of weeks as well. So a couple of big outs for the Roosters.
Yeah, that's such a shame about Joey Manu. So I really feel sorry for him. I don't like the guy. I'm just not going to like the guy. So yeah, he's a decent player, but I don't like he tried to fake an injury when he was against the Dragons last year, and the Dragons, why they stopped and let them run on and score a try, I don't know. I would have put one on him. So I would have just absolutely smashed him with a big tackle. You want to fake it? Or you're holding the ball, mate. You either drop the ball and go to the ground, or I'm going to slam you. So surely you got to be looking at that. But, it just is what it is. So, I do think Tedesco, he's going to dodge a bullet because he's captain of New South Wales. Will he keep being the captain? I don't know. So if they don't pick him as captain, who do they pick next? What, Nathan Cleary? If not Nathan Cleary, who's captain after him? Not too sure.
You got Cameron Murray as well. He's captain material. He would probably, although with him it's probably hard for him to get a starting spot every single time because there's so many combinations of players that you can put in his position. So, But yeah, potentially he might be a choice as a future captain of New South Wales.
Yeah, probably could also probably look at someone like Jake Trbojevic as well if he can stay injury free and stuff like that. He's the kind of person you want to look at. All right, we'll keep them rolling on anyway. So Souths, they jumped up top of the ladder with 20-0 win against West Tigers. I did predict West Tigers. Funnily enough, West Tigers actually aimed up and they made Souths have to earn it real hard. So, but Souths, they went through the motions, got too many good players, and they did get the win there, 20-0. You take anything out of that one?
Yeah, look, kudos to the Tigers. They won the last two games and they stuck it to the Rabbitohs. I mean, I think a lot of people would have thought that the Rabbitohs might have turned it on and really put a number on the Tigers, but they didn't. It was only 6-0 at half time, so they really stood up, but they just couldn't get on the scoreboard and couldn't get the win. But the Rabbitohs, they're looking good at the moment. I think it's 5 straight wins for them, and they've gone straight to the top of the NRL ladder. So they're coming into they're in great form at the moment. They take on Parramatta this week in Indigenous round, and then we've got the Origin period. So pretty crucial for the Rabbitohs to have a number of players playing for Queensland and New South Wales in that Origin series to get the runs on the board and get those points in the competition now with that Origin period coming up. So, as I said, kudos to the Tigers for giving it to the Rabbitohs, but they were unsuccessful and the Rabbitohs march on. Yeah,
absolutely. So I do like it. The Tigers have got a really tight defence, right? So they beat Penrith not by miles better than Penrith. They had to play a lot better than what they normally play. Penrith didn't play their best, but the Tigers had to shut them down. They locked them out, right? Basically stopped Penrith from scoring, and that's been hard for anyone to do, as you could see at the Roosters on the weekend. So to do that is a big deal. Then they've been able to aim up and do it again the next week against Manly, I think it was, or St George. I can't remember who the next one was. And then they went down this weekend 20-0. But their defence hasn't been that bad, really. So they've got a lack of scoring points. If they can actually get some momentum, get some points, I think they could turn a lot of these games where they're losing by not a lot and turn the pressure around and really put it on the other team. So if they can sort that out in the next couple of weeks heading up into the Origin series, they might get a couple of wins here and there and start to pick it up. They might not finish last in the competition after all.
Yeah, look, as you said, it's going to be interesting to see how they go. Obviously, I don't think they'll have any Origin players playing in the Origin series, so they should be at full strength throughout that. They stood up. They've played some great football over the last 3 weeks, even though this week they didn't get the win. They've got the Cowboys next week at Leichhardt Oval, so the way the Cowboys, even though the Cowboys have been in form the last couple of weeks, the way they've gone this year, the Tigers may get that win against the Cowboys at Leichhardt. You would think that the Tigers would step up at Leichhardt, being that what they call the 8th wonder of the world. So,
the only thing I wonder about is how it's still standing up.
Yeah, it certainly does need a bit of a renovation or facelift. They've been crying out for that for years, so I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But they do call it the eighth wonder of the world, and it is a great ground to watch football at, especially when it's a sunny Sunday afternoon, 3 o'clock, and it's packed. It's packed to the rafters. So great atmosphere. But yeah, they could knock it off next week.
Yeah, 100%. I think they can too. So, and they could do so much. The government could do so much more with Leichhardt Oval. So they just need to work out what they want to do with it. Everyone uses it. So the facilities are old and tired, so that's not Tiger's fault. They just need to be upgraded. So the government needs to work out what they want to do with it. Either knock it down, which I don't think they will for historical reasons. So, but more upgrade the facilities and make it better. So if people want to use it, the Tigers still want to use it. Get a good crowd to it. Other than having to park down the bottom of the world's biggest hill and walk up that big stupid street from down the river when I went there last time for the Shoot Shield Grand Final, it actually is a good venue to go to. People get right in it. When you're up on the hill, yeah, there's good vibe there. We could see some wild punch-ups, but that's a different thing. But the grandstand's all right. They've got no cover or anything like that, so they could improve some of these things, like not real in a real difficult manner, but it's just old, tired. We'll go on to the next game here. The Cowboys, so they absolutely hammered St George Illawarra there, 42-22. I think that Anthony Griffin is now living completely on borrowed time. The Dragons players are completely behind him. They're not happy how the board are dealing with this. I don't like how the board deal with a lot of things in St George Illawarra. I don't even know if Peter Dowse is still on the board. When he was there, he had problems. And people always used to say Dowse all the time. But now, yeah, I don't know if he's there or not, but the board's not looking like it's running any better, right? So they've the way they're dealing with this Anthony Griffin thing, if you want Anthony Griffin to be the coach, back the guy. If you don't want him to be the coach and he's not going to get the job next year, tell him, well, your role comes up at the end of this year. At the moment, he thinks he's still got a 50-50 chance. Surely he realises now he's not that stupid that the result's not going his way. He's not going to stick around, unfortunately, based on how he's going at the moment.
Yeah, the big loss to the Cowboys in this game has put more pressure on Anthony Griffin, but I think he won't be there next year. And as you said, they need to let him know sooner rather than later what the actual outcome is going to be, just so he knows, so he can plan for the future, but also so the players know as well, so they can plan for the future, and rather than just all this if or when or how or is he going, is he staying, whatever. So it is a distraction, I would think, to the players on the field, and certainly some of their key players as well, like Ben Hunt. Unfortunately for him, he was a 47th player to play 300 games. It was his milestone game, and they went down, and it just took the shine off it for him anyway. And I think, as you said, they need to just sort this out sooner rather than later. I heard there's a board meeting this week, and I'm sure this will probably be discussed. So they need to sort that out so they can get their on-field happening as well. Whether that, once a decision has been made, whether that turns that around and they do the on-field better than what they're doing is another question, because they certainly got smashed by the Cowboys up there at Queensland Country Bank Stadium, and the Cowboys now have had a couple of wins on the trot against the Roosters and the Dragons. And as I said, they play the Tigers next week. So they're slowly creeping up the ladder, getting those wins. And a lot of the players in that side obviously auditioning for Billy Slater for the Queensland side, as we always see coming in the few weeks coming into Origin. But one thing that came out of that game was the confusing sin bin to Jaden Sullivan. He sort of got tangled up. I forget who he was tackling, and the referee said he was laying on him too long and sin bin him. So that was a bit confusing for Jaden and the Dragons.
Yeah, it was a bit, and I don't think Anthony Griffin put him back on afterwards either, did he, or not for a while? I know people criticised him about it and said, he didn't say why he didn't do it. Well, he just chose not to do it. He's the coach, do whatever he wants to do. So it's his role. You can't do what the fans want you to do. But the whole thing you're talking about, Andrew Johns come out in SEN the other day too and said that he thinks that St George Illawarra just need to make the call about the coach now. So, all right, Anthony, you're not going to get the coaching job next year. Sweet. Boys, he's not going to have the job. We want to sign you on. So if you want to play, we're going to get another coach. Haven't got one yet, but we're going to get one. Just they've got to make that decision one way or another. And if you know who your coach is going to be, what are you sitting on your hands for? Because this is the time when you might actually start negotiating with players for next year. You don't wait till October and then all of a sudden start signing players for next year. Now, we're going to announce the coach and get everyone. Like they're doing this backwards, 100%.
Yeah, it certainly is a distraction, and I mean, I've never been an NRL player, but if I was, I would probably think that if this was going on at my club, I would probably want it sorted quicker rather than later. So, yeah, they definitely need to work something out and get that right candidate, get that right coach for the Dragons. And, you know, you see Craig Fitzgibbon, what he's done at the Sharks last year and this year. He's done a long apprenticeship at the Roosters before he got his coaching job. So they need to pick the right head coach if they're going to get rid of Anthony Griffin, which is more than likely going to happen.
Yeah, so that's the thing. And they need to make the right choice now. So talking about that, Michael Checker come out and said, I wouldn't mind taking the job on. So would you pick him, but would you pick him? So I would think Michael Checker knows what he's doing. Is he going to bring the top level NRL players to your club? But I'm not sure. Might help him attract some decent rugby players and some young guys who might come across, because the way he plays, and he might get some of these Lebanese players like Adam Dewey and that, who are supposedly under threat at West Tigers. So I could see him picking up some good players out of this. Is it going to get you Jerome Luai? Is it going to get you Matt Burton? Is it going to get you Mitchell Moses? I'm not sure about that. So the jury's out until he gets boots on the ground, I suppose.
Yeah, that was a very interesting one. I mean, you mentioned it there. He's been the coach of Lebanon in the World Cup for rugby league, and previously he's currently the Argentinian head coach in rugby union. So he has done a little bit of time, I think, either as a consultant or an assistant coach at the Roosters as well previously. So he loves rugby league. So, but to turn that into a full-time head coaching position, that'd be a massive challenge for him to go to a club like St George, who have been languishing down the bottom of the ladder for recent years, and that would be very interesting to see how he would go there.
Yeah, I don't know if Checker would be said. I think what he wants to do is the right idea. I think the right club for him actually would probably be someone like West Tigers, who do need success, but they're probably going to be patient and give you a couple of years to try to get it as well. So I think St George Illawarra want instant success and instant results because they think the side's better than what it is. And that's probably not the right job to be taken on. So whoever gets that job, they are going to be in a baptism of fire very quickly, whether it's Jason Morales or whoever it ends up being. So it's going to be tough straight out.
I think I think one sort of advantage for Michael Checker would be that the fact that he's coming from rugby, so he wants to challenge himself in rugby league. So, I mean, I know he would probably want to succeed in rugby league, but my thinking outside the square sort of thing would be if he doesn't succeed at the Dragons, well, then he would go back to rugby and he would say, well, I tried, I gave that a go, I just wasn't successful, and go back to rugby.
Oh, 100%. He'll give it a crack because there's rugby clubs that would take him on straight away, professional clubs. So, 100% I'll back it. I don't know that. I'll say even Gold Coast might be a good choice for him. So, funnily enough, someone who might be good at St George Illawarra too was Garth Brennan, who coached at the Gold Coast. I didn't think he was that bad a coach, so I don't know what's happened to him since he's stopped coaching when he got the flick from Gold Coast. But yeah, it wasn't that bad, really. He was doing all right things with Gold Coast, but yeah, that's just been hard there too. So we'll wait and see what happens there. Anyway, the next game, which was yesterday 2-1, you will be not very happy about. So the Raiders against the Eels, Raiders got up 26 points to 18. So I thought if they played their best, they'll probably be able to do it and get the points, because the Eels have been terribly inconsistent again this year. So if they could get it consistent, they'd probably be first or second, really. So they've got a good side. But for on 1 week, off another week, how do you know what's going to happen?
Yeah, well, I think for the Eels, I think this year there's been 8 to 10 games where they've either won or lost by about under 8 points. So they've been there or thereabouts, but they've been struggling this season. This was a big test going down to Canberra. They had beaten the Raiders the last 2 times they've been down there. But the Raiders, they've been playing some good footy. They had won the last 4 in a row. And it was Old Boys Day, apparently, down at Canberra, so that never helps the opposition team when you've got the old boys of a club at a ground and celebrating good times and representing the club. And the players want to win for the old boys as well, so that was a disadvantage as well. So there was a few, in my eyes anyway, a few refereeing calls that were probably a bit strange. So there was, I think, Bailey Simonson. He was ruled to have done a hip drop tackle, but he wasn't sin binned for that. He was placed on report for it, but today it's come out that he doesn't have a charge to fight. So that was an interesting one. But Parramatta started off well. They got the first try. There was a pretty sort of ding-dong battle in the first half. Jermaine Hopgood, who recently celebrated his birthday and a contract extension at Parramatta, got the first try and his first try in the NRL. So congratulations to Jermaine. And it was 8-8 at half-time, and you thought this game could still go either way, but after the break, Canberra came out and scored 2 tries in 3 minutes, so both close to the post. So that sort of broke Parramatta a little bit. Parramatta did score another couple of tries to get it back within, I think it was 4 points, but then Canberra scored in the 74th minute. So disappointing result for Parramatta. The Raiders, they march on now, 5 wins in a row. They find themselves in 6th position on the ladder, so they're on the up.
There you go. So, yeah, they've been threatening for a while to really get it together. So last year when they made the finals, I really thought that's probably about their position, right? So they're in the right place now. That's probably where they're really sit in the competition. So it's good to see they've been winning a lot of games 2 in a row. I think they've got about 4 or 5 in a row now as well, the Raiders. So they're going on a decent little run. So they won't be a top 4 side, but they could easily finish 7th or 8th, or maybe even just miss the top 8, unfortunately, the way the competition is, because it's so close this year in particular. But consistency is going to get them. One big thing is you don't see them get blown away, right? But I haven't seen them blow someone away either. So some of the good sides can really put it on. And that's going to maybe hurt them a little bit, because if it comes down to for and against to decide the spots, well, they're having wins. They're getting plenty of wins, but they're not getting 20 and 30-point wins and stuff like that. They're having 6-point wins, 10-point wins and stuff like that. But if you keep enough of them, you'll end up with better for and against than you will if you have a 50-point win and lose by 30 the week after.
Yeah, well, they've got the highest differential in the top 8, minus 29. So they're in the negative, so that doesn't help them, as you said, although they have had 5 wins in a row. So that does help them get right back up the top of that ladder. And they certainly, if they make the finals, then you certainly probably wouldn't want to play them down in Canberra anyway in a finals game, because they're very competitive down there and they win their finals games down there. And at the moment, from what we've seen, they're playing some good footy. So you wouldn't want to face them in a finals game down there.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't. Anyway, so the next game here. So this one surprised me a little bit. So it was Old Boys Day up in Newcastle too, I think. And the Knights won 46-26 against Gold Coast. The Gold Coast, if I remember right, the 53rd minute, I think it was, they were up 18-16 early in the second half. And I thought, yeah, they're going to go through the motions here. Then I checked the score a bit later when bouncing around radio stations, going, what happened here? I don't know what happened in the second half of the second half, but Gold Coast must have thought, oh, we've got it done. And Newcastle, someone's either ripped them one or they've just stepped it up. I don't know what happened, 46-26.
Yeah, well, half-time, 12-all, you thought, yep, still anybody's game. And I tipped Newcastle in this game only because it was at home and they had the week off, and it was probably a tale of two players, Bradman Best, who went to Bali over the bye week, and Kalen Ponga, who stayed at home and trained and really prepared for this game. And they both had great games. Bradman scored a couple of tries. Kalen scored a try as well, and again another player who's coming in. Well, he's not in contention. His name's been mentioned, and he's been there before for Queensland for that fullback role, and he's in the challenge there with Reece Walsh. But I think Kalen will probably get the nod now after today's performance. He was probably man of the match in that game, and a lot of points scored in that game, so 72 points, so good for the fans to watch that game.
Yeah, 100%. It's good for the fans to watch that game. So I knew Kalen Ponga would have to, if they're going to get a win, he needs to aim up more often than not. But Jackson Hastings, I'm telling you, I know he got pasted when he was at Manly. They didn't really like him and all that sort of stuff. He went over to the UK and's come back. And he's just done wonders. Did a good job with West Tigers because they looked in a worse position last year than this year. When they let him go to Newcastle, I don't think they've replaced him. So, yeah, they did physically get someone to cover him, but they haven't replaced what he brings. So he brings a little bit of an X-factor thing and just adds a bit of steel to your team and versatility. So there's no surprise that Newcastle are doing well. He's in the side that's just added a bit of extra balance with Kalen Ponga and some of the other guys, Clemmer and that, look like they're all starting to have some half-decent games now, which they need to do. So maybe both of these sides are on the up, even though Gold Coast got a bit of a spanking today. So I think this is good for the competition.
Yeah, definitely. As we said before, it's the closest competition in about 50 years. So it's always good to see teams that not necessarily didn't go the best last year on the improve this season. The Knights go up to 11th position. The Titans just out of the 8 on 9th position on for and against. So they're in and about the top, the final 8, the top 8. And we saw Newcastle play some good footy. They took it to the Panthers, and then I think they lost to the Parramatta Eels. Then they had the bye, so they've really struggled against Parramatta. Although they had the bye, they've come out today and really given it to the Titans in that second half. Probably the only highlight for the Titans was I think a 90-metre try to David Fafita. He just got the ball and took off, and massive effort from a giant second rower to get run that far and score a try.
Yeah, 100%. So they go that far to score. Normally, the second rower, Locke or Prop will be going, go boys. Stand back and watch, unless you think you're a shoo-in for it. So, yeah, I would be watching my teammates go, mate, go. So, hang on, I'm supposed to be there. I better get into it. So that's just how it goes. That's how I go. Anyway, that's why I'm not playing NRL. Plus, I'm 45 too. That's not helping either. So in the last game of the round, Manly took on Cronulla today. No surprise there. Sharks got up 20 points to 14. I think they made a bit of a mess of it. They could have done it a lot easier. And, Manly... Yeah, but they surprised me. They showed a bit more resolve than what I thought. I thought they might get whacked pretty hard here. but they came back into the game when the Sharks got up to 20 fairly early, I think, and then Manly's come back a bit in it.
Yeah, well, 14-2 at half time, and Ruben Garrick got a penalty goal right on half time, so they didn't go into the game, into the second half on 0 points. But the Sharks, they started off really well, and they let the Sea Eagles back into the game in the second half, and they got their first try to Ruben Garrick, got the second try to Lachlan Croker, and you thought there was a little bit, they thought they were on the comeback there, and that they could actually pinch this victory from the Sharks. But the Sharks held on with their defence and got the win in the Battle of the Beaches, and apparently it was the Steve Rogers Cup today, so they've taken that one back to the Shire.
Yeah, there you go. So what they're playing Steve Rogers Cup against Manly, but so I know he played in the grand final back in, I'm trying to think when that was now, 77, I think it was.
78, I think.
Yeah, so yeah, 1978, and I think that was a replay grand final too, and they ended up getting smacked the second time around. So, but I did see a picture in the paper today where someone, I don't know who it was, one of the Manly players had Steve Rogers by the shirt. It looked like he was about to headbutt him. So that was an interesting picture, that one. So, it's good the Sharks got a win there now. So have a bit of a look at the ladder here. So this ladder is so out of whack. Seriously, the NRL, if you're going to update stuff, put the right details down. It's just out of touch. I can't even look at that. That's wrong. So
I got the Rabbitohs on top, followed Broncos, Panthers, Sharks is your top four. Storm, Raiders, Dolphins, and Warriors round out the top 8.
Yeah. So the top 4 are all good, bro. Funnily enough, the Panthers aren't consistently in form yet. Neither are the Sharks. Broncos are cruising through on South. So I think Penrith are starting to get back into form. I think Cronulla's still got a bit in the tank, so you'd be pretty happy if you're in the top 4 at the moment in the NRL. Like, no, they're going to have some hard games coming up, and it's a bit bumpy. This whole season's pretty close. We'll just need to be consistent, so you get in there and thereabouts. All right, so what do you got coming up in the Paracade podcast tomorrow, Troy?
Got the replay of this chat from tonight coming out tomorrow morning, and we also have, continuing up until Thursday, we have the interview with former Parramatta Eels player and English Super League player Dennis Moran. Great little chat there about his time mostly playing at Para, but also his time over in England as well. So great little chat there. He throws in some thoughts about the game today as well, and he keeps his eye on it a little bit as well. So that one will run up until Thursday. Yeah,
that's good. I look forward to having listened to that. So I haven't heard it yet. I like Dennis Moran. He's a pretty good player and did a lot of good stuff in the game, and did spend a lot of time in England as well as with the Eels. So have a fabulous week, Troy, and we'll chat to you again on Friday night.
Okay, thanks, Duckman. Thanks for having me, and enjoy your week. Have a great week, and I'll catch you on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely will. I'll chat to you then, Troy.
Thanks, Duckman. Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracade Podcast. See you next time.